Black kid helps a Hell's Angel with money. 1,000 bikers show up at her home the next day. It was a cold Sunday morning in Detroit. The kind where the wind cut through your jacket like knives, and the streets were empty except for the occasional sound of an engine echoing through the silence. 12-year-old Malik Johnson stood outside the corner store, counting the few crumpled dollars he had. His mother had asked him to buy some milk and bread before she left for her second job. Money was tight, too tight, and Malik knew every dollar mattered. As he stood there, a sound broke the quiet, a deep, thunderous roar of a motorcycle. A Harley-Davidson, black and chrome, rolled up to the curb. The man on it looked like he had come straight out of a movie. Long gray beard, tattoos covering his arms, and a leather jacket with the words, Hell's Angels, stitched across the back. He took off his helmet, revealing a weathered face that looked both dangerous and tired. The man parked his bike and reached into his pocket, searching for something. Then came a muttered curse. Damn, left my wallet at the gas station. He sighed and looked at the old soda machine beside him, almost defeated. Malik watched as the man patted his jacket again, clearly realizing he was out of luck. The biker turned to leave, but something made Malik speak. Hey, mister, you okay? The man looked at him, surprised by the boy's tone, innocent, kind, not afraid. Yeah, kid, just forgot my wallet. Guess no coffee for me today. Malik looked down at his small handful of bills. It wasn't much, maybe just enough for the groceries. He hesitated for a moment, then held out $2. You can take this. For coffee. The man blinked, stunned. What? No, kid, I can't take your money. It's okay, Malik said with a small smile. You look like you need it more than I do. The biker didn't know what to say. He took the money slowly, his calloused fingers trembling a little. Thank you, he whispered, voice rough but soft. Malik shrugged. Just promise you'll pay it forward. The biker chuckled. You got yourself a deal. He rode away, but that small act, those $2, stuck in his mind like a spark that refused to go out. That night, Malik went home to his small apartment. His mother was still working late at the diner, trying to keep the lights on and food on the table. Malik set the milk and bread on the counter, then sat by the window, watching the rain fall. He didn't think much of what he'd done. To him, it was just helping someone who needed it. The next morning, however, everything changed. Malik woke to the sound of engines. Not one or two, but hundreds. He ran to the window and froze. His entire street was filled with motorcycles. Chrome gleamed under the morning sun, and leather jackets lined the sidewalks. People from every apartment were stepping outside, wide-eyed, staring at the scene. Malik's mother opened the door, confused and worried. Malik, what is going on? From the sea of bikers, the same man from yesterday stepped forward. He was holding a helmet under one arm, smiling as he walked up to the small apartment door. Malik stepped outside, heart pounding. Hey, kid, the biker said, his voice deep and kind. You remember me? Yeah, Malik said. You're the guy from the store. The man nodded. Name's Red. And this, he gestured to the roaring crowd behind him, is my family. Malik blinked. Family. Hell's Angels, Red said proudly. We ride together, live together. And we take care of people who take care of others. Red bent down, looking Malik in the eye. You gave me $2 yesterday. You didn't know me, didn't ask who I was. You just helped. He looked around at the sea of bikers. We don't forget kindness, ever. Malik's mother came out, tears welling in her eyes, unsure what to make of it. Red turned to her. Mom, your boy reminded me of what real humanity looks like. The world's full of hate these days. But he, Red pointed at Malik, voice shaking slightly, he gave me hope. One of the bikers stepped forward, holding an envelope. We took a little collection, Red said. We wanted to help you folks out. Malik's mom opened the envelope, her hands trembling. Inside was a thick stack of cash, thousands of dollars. She gasped, unable to speak. We don't want anything in return, Red said. Just keep doing what you're doing. Raise this kid right. He's got a good heart. Malik was speechless. He looked at the rows of bikers. Men and women from every background, rough around the edges but standing together with a quiet sense of respect. Then Red handed Malik something else, a small silver pendant shaped like an angel wing. You're one of us now, Red said with a grin. Not by blood, but by soul. The Hells Angels revved their bikes, the sound echoing like thunder across the neighborhood. Neighbors cheered, recording the moment on their phones. Malik stood in awe, clutching the pendant tightly. Red got back on his bike. Remember, kid, the world's tough, but kindness, that's power. Don't ever lose it. With that, 1,000 engines roared as one, the sound shaking the very ground beneath them. Malik and his mother stood there, tears in their eyes, as the bikers rode off into the distance like a wave of thunder and light. That day, Malik learned something he would never forget. You don't have to be rich to change someone's life. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can echo louder than 1,000 engines. And sometimes, all it takes to move the world is $2 crumpled and a heart brave enough to give. The following week felt like a dream for Malik and his mother. News of what happened outside their little apartment spread like wildfire across Detroit, and soon, across the entire country. Local TV stations replayed the footage of hundreds of Hells Angels filling the street, engines rumbling, a boy and his mother crying with joy. People couldn't believe it. A 12-year-old kid gives a biker $2, and 1,000 bikers show up to repay it. It was the kind of story that made the whole city stop and think about kindness for a moment. But not everyone reacted kindly. At school, Malik noticed the difference right away. Some of the teachers smiled at him with pride, telling him how brave and selfless he was. But a few students, especially the older ones, mocked him. Oh look, it's the biker boy, one sneered. What? You part of a gang now? Malik tried to ignore them, but the words stung. He wasn't looking for attention or fame. He just did what his mom taught him, to help when you can. His mother, meanwhile, was struggling with the sudden attention too. Reporters knocked on the door, people sent letters, and donations came in from strangers all over the country. They were finally catching a break after years of scraping by, but deep down, Malik's mom knew fame could fade as quickly as it came. One evening, as Malik sat at the small kitchen table doing homework, his mom spoke softly. Baby, what you did was good. But you gotta remember, when you do good things, you don't do them to be seen. You do them because it's right. Malik nodded. I know, Mama, I didn't mean for all this to happen. She smiled, brushing his hair gently. I know, sweetheart, but maybe God wanted people to see what kindness looks like. That night, Malik went to bed thinking about Red, the biker who had kept his promise to pay it forward. He wondered if he'd ever see him again. A few days later, Malik got his answer. After school, as he walked home, he heard a familiar rumble behind him. He turned and saw a single motorcycle rolling up beside him. Red climbed off, wearing the same leather jacket, the same calm, knowing smile. Hey, kid, he greeted. Heard you've been famous lately. Malik laughed nervously. Yeah, it's been weird. Red chuckled. I figured as much. Mind if I talk to your mom? Moments later, the two sat in the living room, the sound of the city faint outside. Red spoke with quiet sincerity. I didn't just come to say thanks again. I came because I want to offer something. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small folded paper. It was a flyer for a local community project, the Hells Angels charity ride. We're building a youth center, Red explained. Somewhere kids can hang out, stay off the streets, learn about bikes, mechanics, whatever they love. I thought maybe you and your mom could come to the event. You'd be our guests of honor. Malik's mom looked surprised. A youth center? Yeah. Red nodded. We've seen too many kids go down the wrong path. We want to change that. And it all started with your boy. The day of the event came, and the roar of engines once again filled the air. This time, it wasn't in front of Malik's apartment. It was downtown, in an empty lot that would soon become the new center. Red stood on stage beside Malik, handing him a hard hat and a shovel. "This kid reminded us that kindness doesn't come from strength or money," Red said to the crowd. "It comes from heart." The crowd cheered as Malik dug the first bit of dirt, marking the start of construction. Tears filled his mother's eyes as she watched him. It was more than a moment. It was a legacy being born. But life, as always, wasn't done testing them. A few months later, tragedy struck. Red was in an accident. His bike had been hit by a drunk driver late at night on the highway. Malik's mother got the call, and when she told Malik, his world went still. The man who had shown him what loyalty and brotherhood meant was now fighting for his life. Malik visited Red in the hospital, where the big, strong biker now looked fragile, tubes running into his arms, machines beeping softly. "Hey, kid," Red whispered when he saw him. "Don't you cry. I've had a hell of a ride." Malik held his hand tightly. "You can't go, Red. You promised me we'd finish the youth center together." Red smiled faintly. "And you will, with or without me. You just keep that heart of yours. The world needs it." Days later, Red passed away peacefully, surrounded by his biker family. At his funeral, hundreds of riders came from every corner of the country. The air thundered with engines as they rode in silence, a tribute to their fallen brother. Malik stood at the front, holding the silver angel wing pendant Red had given him. When the time came, he stepped forward and spoke, voice trembling but strong. "Red told me kindness is power, that even a small act can change everything. I didn't believe it then, but now I do. He didn't just change my life. He changed how I see the world." The crowd listened in silence. When he finished, the bikers roared their engines one last time, sending a wave of sound that seemed to carry Red's spirit to the heavens. Months passed. The youth center opened, painted in black and chrome, with Red's name engraved on the front. Inside, a wall displayed photos of Red, his brothers, and a small boy holding a pendant. Malik grew older, stronger, and wiser. He learned to fix engines, mentor younger kids, and carry forward the legacy Red left behind. Years later, when someone asked him why he devoted his life to helping others, Malik smiled. "Because once, a man taught me that no act of kindness is ever wasted. And I owe him everything." Answer: the sound of roaring engines that once echoed through the streets became a symbol of love, loyalty, and brotherhood. A reminder that kindness, no matter how small, can ripple through the world and change lives forever. 10 years passed since that cold morning when Malik handed $2 crumpled to a stranger on a Harley. The youth center that Red had dreamed of was now alive and thriving. The building, named the Red Wing Foundation, stood proudly in the heart of Detroit, a beacon of hope in a neighborhood that once knew only struggle. The walls inside were lined with murals of bikes, angels, and flames, each one painted by kids who had once been lost to the streets but now found direction, family, and purpose. Malik, now 22, worked full-time as the head mechanic and youth mentor. He had grown taller, broader, with hands that bore the same kind of grease and grit Red's once did. Around his neck still hung the silver angel wing pendant. He never took it off. Every morning, he arrived early, unlocking the heavy steel doors as the sun peeked over the horizon. He could still hear Red's voice in his mind. "Keep that heart of yours, kid." Those words had become his compass. But life wasn't simple. The center was running out of funding. Donations had slowed, sponsors were pulling out, and bills were piling up. Malik tried to stay strong for the kids, but the truth weighed on him. If he couldn't find help soon, the Red Wing Foundation would close within months. One night, Malik sat in the office, staring at stacks of unpaid invoices. His best friend, Andre, another mechanic who grew up with him in the program, walked in, holding 2 coffees. "You look like you've been fighting the world again," Andre said. Malik sighed. "Feels like it. We're out of money. If we can't pay the rent next month, they're shutting us down. Andre placed a hand on his shoulder. You remember what Red used to say? The road always turns when you least expect it. Malik smiled faintly. Yeah, but it's been a long road, man. Later that night, Malik walked home through the empty streets of Detroit. The neon lights flickered, cars rolled by with muffled music, and for a brief moment, he felt the weight of everything. Red's pendant felt heavier around his neck. He looked up at the sky and whispered, Red, if you're out there, I could really use some help right now. The next morning, as Malik opened the youth center, he noticed a small package sitting by the door. No name, no return address. Inside was a faded photograph of Red and Malik together at the first charity ride, and a handwritten note that simply said, Ride again. Beneath it, there was a key. Malik's heart skipped. It was the key to Red's old Harley, the same bike from all those years ago. Andre helped him wheel it out from the back of the garage, where it had been kept untouched for years. The paint was dull, the engine silent, but to Malik, it looked like destiny calling. We'll fix it up, Andre said. Then what? Malik smiled. Then we ride. Just like Red would have wanted. Over the next few days, the whole crew came together, kids, mechanics, and even old bikers who used to ride with Red. They rebuilt the Harley from the ground up. Every bolt tightened, every dent polished, every memory revived. When the engine finally roared to life, the sound was like thunder returning to the sky. The kids cheered, and Malik felt tears sting his eyes. She's alive, he whispered. That weekend, Malik decided to organize a charity ride, one big enough to save the youth center. He called it, the Ride of Red Wings. He reached out to every biker group he could find, spreading the word across social media. We're not asking for charity, he said in his post. We're asking for brotherhood. The same kind that once changed a boy's life with a single act of kindness. Days passed. At first, only a few bikers confirmed. Then dozens. Then hundreds. On the morning of the ride, Malik stood outside the center in disbelief. The same street where Red once stood was now packed again. Not with 1,000, but with thousands of bikers from all across the country. Engines revved, flags waved, and leather jackets glistened in the sun. It was as if Red's spirit had called them all home. Malik climbed onto Red's old Harley, the pendant shining against his chest. His mother, now older but still strong, stood on the porch with tears streaming down her face. You've made him proud, she whispered. Malik nodded. I'm just finishing what he started. As the engines thundered to life, the city trembled with their power. The ride stretched for miles, a river of chrome and leather flowing through Detroit's heart. Crowds lined the streets, cheering as the riders passed. The noise wasn't chaos, it was a symphony of unity, of remembrance, of love. By the end of the ride, the donations had poured in from every corner of the country. News outlets covered the event, calling it, the ride that saved a city's soul. The Red Wing Foundation received enough support not only to survive, but to expand. Malik watched in awe as the community came together like never before. That night, standing under the quiet sky, Malik looked up and smiled. He felt the wind brush his face, soft and warm, like a whisper from the past. Keep that heart of yours, kid. He whispered back, I still have it, Red. And I always will. From that day forward, every year, bikers from all over the world gathered in Detroit for the Ride of Red Wings. Not for fame, not for money, but for the promise of brotherhood, and the reminder that even the smallest act of kindness can echo through generations. And every time Malik led the ride on Red's Harley, engines roaring like thunder behind him, the world remembered one simple truth: kindness never dies. It only rides farther. 5 more years passed, and the city of Detroit had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Where there were once abandoned blocks and shuttered shops, there were now murals, small businesses, and laughter in the streets. The Red Wing Foundation had grown into a network of youth centers across 3 states, each one carrying the same emblem: an angel wing and a roaring motorcycle wheel. And at the heart of it all was Malik Johnson, the boy who once gave away $2 and unknowingly started a movement. At 27, Malik had become something of a legend in the community. Kids called him Big Brother Malik, and even grown men respected him like a leader. He wasn't rich, but he was fulfilled. Every day, he taught mechanics, welding, and life lessons, not from textbooks, but from experience and heart. Yet behind that proud smile, Malik carried a secret weight. The expansion of the foundation had brought challenges he never expected. More centers meant more responsibility, more people to manage, and more financial strain. The bigger they grew, the harder it became to keep everything running. Donations were slowing again, and investors wanted to rebrand the project, turn it into something more commercial, less personal. Malik refused. This was built on heart, he told them, not business. But deep down, he feared losing what Red had helped him build. One evening, after another long meeting with the board, Malik sat alone in the workshop, the smell of oil and steel thick in the air. Red's Harley sat in the corner, gleaming softly under the lights, the same bike that had saved everything years ago. Malik placed his hand on the gas tank and whispered, "You'd know what to do, Red." Just then, the workshop door creaked open. Andre stepped in, older now, a bit heavier, but still loyal as ever. "You talkin' to ghosts again, man," he said with a grin. Malik smirked. "Only the ones that still answer." Andre sat beside him. "You look tired, brother." "I am," Malik admitted. "I keep thinking maybe I'm in over my head." Andre leaned forward. "Red believed in you. We all do. But maybe it's time you stop carrying this alone." Those words lingered in Malik's mind. He realized Andre was right. The foundation had grown beyond what one man could handle. It needed a new generation to lead, just like Red once passed the torch to him. The next week, Malik called a meeting at the youth center. The place was filled with faces, kids who had grown up there, volunteers, bikers, and community members. On the wall behind him hung a large portrait of Red, smiling beneath his old leather jacket. Malik stood up and said, "When I was 12 years old, I gave $2 to a man I didn't know. That man turned my life around, and all of yours too, in one way or another. But this," he gestured to the packed room, "was never just my story. It's all of ours. And now, it's time for you to carry it forward." He announced a new program, Red's Legacy Riders, a mentorship initiative where older teens and young adults from the foundation would teach younger kids not just about mechanics, but about loyalty, respect, and compassion. The idea was simple: to make sure the chain of kindness never broke. The program exploded with success. Within months, local news stations were covering it. Other cities began reaching out to replicate it. And Malik, for the first time in years, felt peace again. The foundation was no longer dependent on one man's shoulders. It had become a living, breathing force of good. One crisp autumn day, Malik received a letter in the mail. It was handwritten, old-fashioned, with no return address. Inside was a simple note: "I was one of the men at Red's funeral. We all remember what you said that day. Next month, we're riding cross-country, coast to coast, to honor Red's legacy. We want you to lead." Malik's heart raced. It was the biggest ride they had ever organized. Thousands of bikers would ride from California to Detroit, carrying Red's story across the nation. He agreed immediately. When the day arrived, the highways were filled with chrome and thunder. People lined the roads, waving flags and holding signs that read, "Ride for Red." Malik led the formation on Red's Harley, the angel wing pendant shining against his chest. As they rode through towns and cities, strangers came out just to catch a glimpse of the roaring wave of unity. But halfway through the journey, tragedy struck again. Heavy rain poured as they crossed a mountain highway. The road turned slick, visibility dropped, and one of the younger riders lost control, crashing into a barrier. Malik immediately pulled over, rushing to help. The rider was badly injured but alive. Malik took off his jacket and pressed it against the boy's bleeding arm, yelling for help. "Stay with me, kid. You're gonna be fine." The ambulance came, and as the young man was taken away, Malik stood there soaked in the rain, heart pounding. Red's words echoed again. "Keep that heart of yours, kid." He realized that leadership wasn't just about riding at the front. It was about being there when others fell. That night, sitting by the campfire with the other bikers, Malik made a vow. Red didn't build this for fame or followers. He built it so no one would ever ride alone. From now on, that's our promise, no one rides alone. When they finally reached Detroit weeks later, tens of thousands of people were waiting. The entire city lit up to welcome them home. Cameras flashed, reporters spoke, but Malik ignored all of it. He parked Red's Harley in front of the youth center and looked at the mural of wings painted on the wall. He placed his hand on the wall and whispered, "We did it, Red. The road never ends. It just keeps leading us home." That night, as the bikers rode off into the horizon, Malik watched the lights fade, the thunder of engines slowly blending with the heartbeat of the city. And for the first time, he understood, this story was no longer just his, or Red's. It belonged to everyone who believed in kindness, in brotherhood, in second chances. Because long after the engines quieted, one truth still roared in every soul that heard their story: kindness doesn't die. It rides forever. Years later, Malik stood outside the Red Wing Foundation, now bigger than ever, watching a new generation of kids learn to fix bikes, just like he once did. The sun dipped low, painting the sky gold, and the sound of engines rumbled faintly in the distance. Malik smiled, touching the silver angel wing around his neck. He whispered softly, "We kept the promise, Red." Then he looked toward the horizon, where a line of riders appeared, roaring toward the city like a storm of light. And Malik knew, as long as there was kindness in one heart, the ride would never end.